You think you've won, but trust me, this isn't over." The voice echoed in my ears, cold and filled with venom. I turned, my heart pounding, the weight of her words crashing over me like a tidal wave. She didn't know it yet, but she had just unleashed something far more dangerous than she could imagine. I'm Margaret, a woman who has spent the last 30 years of her life loving a man who betrayed me in ways I never imagined. I stood by him, sacrificed everything, only to find out that the person I trusted the most had been hiding a secret life. And now, after his death, that secret is threatening to destroy me. But I wasn't going to be the victim anymore. The truth was mine, and I would expose every lie, every deceit, until I had nothing left to lose. I thought the worst was behind me, but I was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous battles come after the war is supposed to be over. This is the story of how I fought back, how I reclaimed everything that was taken from me, and how in the end I became the one in control. I couldn't stop my hands from trembling as I stood there at my husband's funeral. The place was somber, the air thick with grief. The casket was heavy with memories, but even more, it weighed down my heart. The past 30 years had been a whirlwind, a love story I once thought was unbreakable. Yet here I stood, alone in my sorrow with no one to comfort me. No one but the shadow of the man I had married. I glanced around at the familiar faces, friends, family, acquaintances, everyone here to say goodbye. But there was one face I didn't expect to see. A woman standing in the back, holding a black lace veil to her face. Her eyes met mine across the room, and I froze. Her gaze was sharp, almost challenging. She knew exactly who I was. She was the last person I ever expected to find at this place, his mistress. I felt my stomach drop as I saw her walk towards the front of the room. A tight knot twisted in my chest. The audacity, the nerve. She didn't belong here, but she didn't care. As the service continued, she approached my husband's casket, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. The sound was deafening in my ears. She knelt down, placing a single rose beside his name, whispering something that made my blood run cold. It wasn't a prayer, it wasn't a goodbye. It was too personal, too intimate. She was making her mark, leaving a message for everyone, a message that screamed ownership. I could feel the stares of others, their eyes shifting between me and her. Whispers followed. The tension in the room thickened. Was I imagining it, or were people taking sides? Did they know? Did they care? I felt my face flush. How dare she? How dare she waltz in here like she had every right to be part of this day? The woman who had stolen my husband's attention, time, and love, while I had been the one to raise our children, manage our household, support him when he couldn't stand on his own. All those years, my sacrifice, my loyalty, and this is how it ends? With her, standing at my husband's funeral, pretending she was just as important? I tried to control my emotions, to force myself to remain calm. I was already grieving, heartbroken, and now this woman had the nerve to stand there, acting like she was in the same league as me. My chest tightened with anger, but more than that, shame. She was making a mockery of everything I had been, everything I had sacrificed. Then she did it. In front of the whole room, with a sly smile barely hidden behind her veil, she spoke up. "I never imagined I'd see the day," she said, her voice so loud it echoed in the silence of the room. "But I suppose it's time to say goodbye to him and to you. I'm sure you're devastated, but don't worry, I'll make sure his legacy lives on." I couldn't breathe. Her words hit me like a slap across the face. Legacy? What legacy? The one that was built on lies? The one that was nothing more than a series of broken promises, dishonesty, and deception? My vision blurred with tears as I looked around. I felt the weight of the moment, the eyes of everyone on me, wondering how I would react. Would I cry? Would I scream? Would I fall apart? I felt small, humiliated, betrayed, but above all, I felt something else. Fury. a deep, searing fury that I couldn't suppress. Not anymore. I had spent my entire life being the dutiful wife, the devoted mother, the one who gave up everything for the family. And for what? To be humiliated in front of a room full of strangers by the very woman who had been sleeping with my husband behind my back? Something inside me snapped. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to do something. As her words lingered in the air, I took a step forward, my legs shaky, but determined. The anger that had been boiling inside me finally reached its peak. I had been quiet for too long. I had swallowed my grief, my pain, my betrayal. But not anymore. Not today. I turned to face her, my eyes locking onto hers. She didn't flinch. Instead, her smile widened. "Well, it seems I've said enough," she purred, turning her attention back to the casket, not giving me another glance. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. All eyes turned to me, and I felt every single one of them. The whispers started, soft at first, then growing louder, feeding into the tension. The mistress stood there, her back to me, but I could feel her smugness radiating through her every move. She was so sure of herself, so confident that she had already won. But something shifted in me. Something broke free. I wasn't just going to stand there and let her walk all over me anymore. Not when my life had been nothing but sacrifice for a man who couldn't keep his vows. Not when I had given him everything, my love, my time, my energy, and in return he gave me nothing but lies and broken promises. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, even though my heart was racing. I knew exactly what I had to do next. The mistress turned her head slightly, as if sensing my change in posture. A glimmer of arrogance still lingered in her eyes, but I saw a flicker of doubt too. She didn't know what I was about to say, and it was that uncertainty that made the next words I spoke all the more powerful. "You think you've won," I began, my voice a low, steady hum that only the people closest could hear. "You think this is your moment, don't you? You think you're the one he was always meant to be with. But let me tell you something. You're wrong." I could feel her stiffen at the sound of my voice. She didn't turn to face me. Her pride wouldn't allow it. But I could see her hands trembling ever so slightly, and that small crack in her armor made my heart race with exhilaration. I took another step forward, my heels clicking against the polished floor, every step echoing like a drumbeat. The guests around us were silent, their eyes darting back and forth between us, caught in the tension. The room was so still, you could hear a pin drop. "You want to know the truth?" I asked, my voice growing louder now. "The truth is, he wasn't the man you thought he was. He wasn't the man I thought he was either. I spent 30 years with him, 30 years of my life. I helped him build a career, a family. I gave him everything. And this," I gestured toward the mistress, "this is what I get in return? Betrayal, heartache, public humiliation. I was the one who worked my fingers to the bone, the one who stayed up late, the one who sacrificed my dreams for his. And you think you're entitled to his legacy, to the life he promised me? You're nothing but an afterthought, a fleeting shadow in his life." Her face, usually so composed, began to crack. She still refused to turn around, but her shoulders had tensed, and I saw her hands clench into fists at her sides. The arrogance was slipping away, replaced with discomfort. She didn't know where this was going, and I could feel the power slowly shifting back to me. "I don't know if you've heard," I continued, now addressing the whole room, "but my husband had a secret. Something he never wanted anyone to know. Not you, not anyone. He had a will, a final statement that was meant to protect me, to make sure that even in his absence, I'd have everything I needed. But he didn't count on you, did he? He didn't count on you showing up today and claiming what wasn't yours." The room buzzed with curiosity, but I wasn't done yet. I turned my attention back to the mistress, watching her, waiting for the realization to hit her. "You've been so busy playing the role of the grieving lover, haven't you?" I mocked softly. But what you don't know is that my husband left me something far more valuable than his empty promises. And when I say he left it for me, I mean he left it for me alone. He knew the truth about you, and you're not going to get away with it. The mistress's shoulders trembled, her jaw tightened, but her lips didn't move. She didn't speak, but I could tell she was scared now. She could feel the shift in the atmosphere. I smiled, a slow, deliberate smile. I know what you've been hoping for. You thought you'd waltz in here, take your place as if you deserved it, and steal my husband's legacy. But that's not how this is going to go. No, I've got a few things to say that are going to change everything. You might have thought you were the secret mistress in the shadows, but today you're about to become the villain in a story you didn't even know you were part of. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in, letting the silence stretch. This was the moment where everything would change. I reached into my bag, pulling out the document I had been holding onto for weeks, something my late husband had kept from me for so long, a testament to the life I thought I had, but never truly did. This, I said, holding up the envelope for everyone to see, is the real will. The one he made when he realized I was the one who had been there for him through thick and thin. The one that leaves everything to me, everything, and you, my dear, get nothing, absolutely nothing. The mistress's face drained of color. She stood there rooted to the spot, her expression faltering. She had been so sure, so confident. But now, as the truth unraveled in front of her, she realized how wrong she had been. Her mask of arrogance was gone, replaced with a look of stunned disbelief. I could feel the eyes of everyone on me now. The room was silent, heavy with the weight of the moment. The last vestiges of the mistress's confidence crumbled, and I knew in that instant, this was my victory. I'm not the fool you thought I was, I said, voice steady, but with a sharp edge. You might have thought you could take everything from me, but today I'm taking back what's mine. The silence was unbearable. The mistress, her back still turned to me, stood frozen, her shoulders sagging as though a weight had just crushed her. She slowly turned her head, her eyes wide, now filled with a mixture of disbelief and panic. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The confidence she once wore like armor had completely dissolved, leaving her vulnerable in a way I'd never imagined. Well, well, I said, my voice carrying through the now silent room, my gaze fixed on her. It seems you didn't get the memo, sweetheart. This wasn't your inheritance. You weren't even a footnote in the will. Her eyes darted around the room, desperate to find some kind of support, some kind of ally in the sea of shocked faces staring at her. But there was nothing. Not a single soul came to her defense. I don't understand, she finally stammered, her voice shaking, a tremor of fear now lacing her every word. This can't be right. He said, he promised me. Her words faltered as she tried to piece together her version of the story, but her facade was shattered. The lies she'd been telling herself for months, years perhaps, were crashing down around her, and she knew there was no hiding it anymore. Promises? I laughed bitterly. He made promises to me, too. For 30 years, I stood by him, worked tirelessly for our family, never asking for anything in return. And now I'm standing here, watching you try to take what's mine. You're nothing but a parasite. The words stung, and I could see the impact they had on her. She recoiled, her mouth snapping shut as her cheeks flushed crimson. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered everything. The years of loyalty I had shown, the sacrifices I'd made, the love I had given him, and how it had all been thrown away for someone like her. No, I wasn't going to let her play the victim. Not today. You think you can waltz in here and claim your share of my husband's life? Do you think this was all just some game for you? I continued, my voice growing louder with every word. I was the one who supported him when he was failing, who picked up the pieces when he couldn't. And now, you his mistress, are here, trying to take what's mine, as if I'm some kind of fool who never saw it coming. Let me make this very clear. You don't get to share in the spoils of a life you didn't help build. She opened her mouth to speak again, but the words came out in a weak, pathetic rush. He loved me. He said you were too cold, that I was the one who understood him, that I gave him what you couldn't. Is that what you think? I interrupted sharply, cutting her off. That he loved you. He was never in love with you. You were just a distraction, a momentary escape from his guilt, a temporary fix for his brokenness. You weren't his real family. You weren't the one who made sacrifices for him. And that, sweetheart, is why you'll never have what I have. Her face twisted, the cracks in her demeanor widening. Her hands were trembling now, her breathing shallow. She had no argument, no defense, only an empty gaze, lost and pleading for sympathy that she didn't deserve. I loved him, she whispered, her voice a mere thread. I did everything for him. I took a step forward, narrowing my eyes. Did you? Did you really? Or did you just do everything for yourself? You've been living in a fantasy world thinking you could play the role of the other woman and somehow walk away with a piece of everything. But let me make this clear, in case you missed it. You get nothing. Not a dime. Not a memory. Not a shred of what was left behind. And that's the truth. Her face collapsed, all the anger and pride that had held her together draining away, leaving her looking smaller, more fragile than I'd ever seen her. I knew then that the humiliation she was facing was far worse than anything I could have imagined. Her reputation was shattered, her illusions of entitlement exposed for all to see. For a moment, I saw her hesitate. A brief flicker of doubt crossed her eyes, like she was trying to make sense of what had just happened. But it was too late. The truth had already been laid bare, and there was no turning back. I don't know why I'm surprised, I said with a calm I didn't even recognize in myself. You never respected me. You never respected the life we built. And now, you'll be left with nothing but the wreckage of your own greed. She looked at me one last time, but I didn't see the woman who had once tried to take everything from me. I saw someone broken, stripped of her power, her confidence, her false sense of superiority, and it was satisfying. Goodbye, darling, I said softly before turning away, leaving her standing there in front of the casket, surrounded by the silence of her defeat. As I walked out of the room, I felt a strange sense of peace settle over me. I had faced my worst fears, had been humiliated, tested, and pushed to my breaking point. But in the end, I had come out stronger. I wasn't the victim anymore. I wasn't the woman who had been cheated on and betrayed. I was the woman who took back her power, and it felt damn good. The days following the funeral were a blur. The guests who had attended, their eyes wide and mouths quiet, whispered behind closed doors, unsure of what to say, unsure of what they had just witnessed. I didn't care. I didn't care about their opinions, their gossip, or their judgments. What mattered now was that I had reclaimed my dignity, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was suffocating under the weight of my marriage, my sacrifices, or my husband's betrayal. But even though the storm inside me had calmed, the consequences of that moment still hung in the air. The truth I had exposed had a ripple effect, one that I knew would reach further than I ever expected. It wasn't long before I received a call from the lawyer. The news he shared made my heart skip a beat. "We've found something," he said, his voice urgent yet calm. "Something important in your husband's private documents. It seems he made a final change to his will, something that wasn't part of the version we knew. You're going to want to come down here." I felt a cold chill run through me. Was this another twist? Another lie he'd left behind? Another reason for the mistress to think she had a claim to what was mine? I wasted no time. I arrived at the law firm as quickly as I could. As I walked through the doors, my mind raced. The air in the office was cool, sterile. A far cry from the emotional heat I'd been living in for the past few days. My lawyer sat behind his desk, looking far too composed for someone who had just delivered such a bombshell. "Margaret, I think you need to see this," he said, sliding a folder across the table toward me. I opened it slowly, my fingers trembling slightly as I unfolded the pages. And then I saw it. The change that my husband had made before his death. It was a legal amendment to his will, one that he had kept secret from me. And in that amendment, there was one phrase that stuck out, glaringly, like a neon sign. "I leave all assets, properties, and personal items to my wife, with the exception of one item, the house on Birchwood Lane. This property shall go to the woman who cared for me in my final years, my beloved companion, and the woman I loved in secret." I froze. The words blurred in front of my eyes. I knew immediately what this meant. The mistress had been included, but there was something more. Something hidden in those lines. Something I couldn't quite piece together at first. "Wait," I said, my voice shaking. "This is what he left behind? For her?" "Yes, that's correct," the lawyer said, his face unreadable. "It appears she was meant to inherit the house. At least that's what he wrote, but—" He paused, as if weighing how to deliver the rest of the news. "But what?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "There's a clause that overrides this. The house was meant to go to her, but there's one catch. If she ever caused any trouble, if she ever publicly revealed the affair, that property would immediately revert to you, and she would lose everything." My blood ran cold. My husband, in his final moments, had made sure that the mistress wouldn't walk away scot-free. He knew her arrogance. He knew she would try to stake her claim, and he had built in a safeguard, a back door to ensure she wouldn't be able to take what was mine if she dared to expose their secret. "Are you telling me that if she had kept quiet, if she hadn't tried to humiliate me in front of everyone, she would have gotten the house?" I whispered, the words barely leaving my lips. "Yes," the lawyer said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "But now, because of her actions, the house is yours." I sank into the chair, my heart racing, the weight of the situation sinking in. I had no idea that my husband had planned this, or that he had been so meticulous, even in death, to ensure that the mistress would never have the upper hand. "I want to proceed," I said, my voice suddenly firm, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "I want that house. I'm not letting her walk away with anything." The lawyer nodded, already picking up the phone to begin the legal process. But as I sat there, I couldn't help but feel something else, something bittersweet. My husband had known. He had known everything, the lies, the betrayal, the affair, and even in his final act, he had left me something. He had protected me. But what kind of protection was it, really? A protection that came too late, after I had already been humiliated, after I'd already been forced to face the woman who had stolen his heart, or at least the part of him that could be stolen. It was a hollow victory, a victory that meant nothing if it was built on a foundation of lies. I left the lawyer's office in a daze, my mind swirling with the revelations. The house was mine, but the cost, oh, the cost had already been paid. My marriage had ended, my heart had been shattered, and now, even though I had won, the bitterness of it all lingered in the air. As I sat in my car driving home, I realized that this wasn't the closure I had imagined. There would be no grand moment of triumph. There would be no dramatic final words with the mistress, no satisfying confrontation. All I had now was a house, one that would soon be mine legally, but one that couldn't erase the betrayal, the hurt, or the loss. And then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed. It was a text from the lawyer. "The paperwork is being processed. Everything is moving forward. Just remember, it's yours now. All of it." I stared at the screen, the weight of those words settling in. It was mine. But I had lost so much more than a house. It was almost a week later when I finally took possession of the house on Birchwood Lane. the house my husband had left behind for his mistress. And just like that, the bitter taste of victory hit me. It wasn't a celebration. It wasn't some grand gesture of triumph. It felt like nothing more than reclaiming what should have always been mine. But the house, though legally mine, had become a symbol of something far more painful, a constant reminder of everything I had lost. I spent the first few days alone there, walking through the empty rooms, trying to imagine what life could be like if I could just move past the hurt. The house, with its polished floors and grand windows, was beautiful. But it felt hollow, as though I had inherited not just the property, but the weight of my husband's betrayal. But peace was fleeting. The calm didn't last. The phone call came late one afternoon, just as I was about to sit down for a quiet dinner. My phone buzzed on the counter, and when I saw the name flashing across the screen, my stomach sank. It was from the lawyer again. "Margaret, we've got a problem." The word struck me like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's the mistress. She's not going down without a fight. She's filing a legal claim, saying she's entitled to the property and assets. She's hired an attorney, and they're pushing for a reversal of the will's stipulations." I let the silence stretch between us, the words sinking in. I could almost hear her voice in my head, her tone dripping with entitlement, like she still believed she had a right to everything that was mine. "This is ridiculous," I said, my voice growing sharper. "She's already lost. It's over." "I know," the lawyer replied, his voice measured but tense. "But she's not backing down. She's claiming that the clause in the will was coerced, that your husband didn't have full capacity to make such a decision. She's challenging the will on the grounds of undue influence, and she's prepared to fight it in court." I gripped the phone tighter, trying to control the surge of anger rising within me. This woman wasn't done yet. She was still trying to take from me, still trying to reclaim what she thought was hers. I could feel my blood pressure rising as I imagined her smirking, her hands around the very life my husband had promised me. "That's absurd," I muttered. "How could she possibly—" "She's got a story," the lawyer interjected. "She's saying that your husband's mental state deteriorated over the final months of his life, and she's convincing people that the will wasn't signed in full capacity. If this goes to trial, it could drag on for months." A chill ran down my spine. I knew she was desperate. She was clinging to the last shred of what she thought she deserved, and I had to stop her. I had to show her once and for all that she wouldn't win. "Then we'll fight it," I said, my voice steely with determination. "I'm not letting her walk away with anything, not after what she did to me." There was a long pause before the lawyer spoke again, his tone softer now. "Margaret, this is going to be a long battle. If she digs in her heels, it could get ugly. She's already rallying support. People are listening to her story." My mind raced. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about proving that I wouldn't be pushed around, that I wasn't some victim to be trampled on. The injustice of it all, the fact that this woman still had the nerve to fight for what was rightfully mine, had lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to lose again, not this time. "I don't care how ugly it gets," I said, my voice cold with resolve. "She wants a fight, she'll get one. But this time, I'm going to make sure she knows exactly who she's messing with." The phone call ended, and I sat there in the silence of the house, my mind churning with thoughts of how to counter her next move. I wasn't about to back down. Not now, not when I'd come this far. But I knew that the battle was only just beginning, and what came next would either be the final blow to her claims or the start of a much darker journey. The next few days were filled with meetings, phone calls, and legal jargon. I spent hours preparing my case, poring over the documents and evidence. I refused to let her take what was mine without a fight. But even as I fortified my defenses, I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't finished with me. She was playing a game, one I didn't fully understand. And I could feel the tension mounting, waiting for the next move. And then, just when I thought I had seen everything, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't the lawyer. It was a text from an unknown number. "I know what you're doing, and I'm not going to let you win. Watch your back. I'll be waiting." My heart skipped a beat. The message was chilling. It was her. The mistress, or someone acting on her behalf, was threatening me now. She wasn't going to stop. She was willing to do anything to win. But I wasn't going to let her. Not when I had already lost so much. This was the final straw. She wanted a war? Well, I was ready for it. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. Whatever she had planned, I was ready. And this time, I wouldn't back down. The threat hung over me like a dark cloud, a constant reminder that my fight was far from over. The text from the unknown number had shaken me more than I cared to admit, but I wasn't going to let it paralyze me. No, I had spent too many years standing in the shadows. Too many years allowing others to dictate my life. This time, I was in control. I spent the following days strengthening my resolve. I met with my lawyer more often, ensuring every legal document was airtight. I had already lost so much to betrayal, to secrecy, to lies. And I wasn't going to let a woman who had been nothing more than a fleeting chapter in my husband's life take away what was rightfully mine. Still, the fear lingered. There were whispers around town, whispers of the mistress's persistence, her determination. People started to take sides, some believing her lies, others siding with me. But I knew this was far bigger than a social media war. The stakes were higher now, and I could feel it. A few days after the ominous text, I found myself standing in the hallway of the law office, looking at the sealed envelope the lawyer had handed me. I had been preparing myself for the worst, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. "I've got something," the lawyer said, his voice low and careful. "She's going to use everything against you." I froze, my pulse racing. "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "She's got a new piece of evidence, a recording, and she's going public with it." I blinked. "A recording? What recording?" "The one she says was made by your husband in the last weeks of his life. A confession, apparently. She's claiming that he said on tape that you were abusive, that you drove him away, that the affair was your fault. She's going to use this to claim that he was coerced into changing his will." I felt the blood drain from my face. The last thing I wanted was more public humiliation. The idea that she was weaponizing my late husband's final moments against me was enough to make my stomach twist. "Is it real?" I asked, my voice trembling despite myself. "We haven't been able to verify it yet," the lawyer replied, "but she's threatening to release it. And if she does, it could complicate everything. This is a serious claim, and it's going to cause a media frenzy." I stood there in stunned silence, trying to process what I had just heard. I could see it now, her standing in front of a camera, her smirk widening as she fed the world another layer of her twisted version of the truth. And there I would be, caught in the crossfire, watching my life unravel once again. But I couldn't let it happen. Not this time. "Let her release it," I said finally, my voice stronger now. "If it's a lie, the truth will come out. And if it's real—" I paused, a cold determination settling in my chest. "Then we fight it. We expose everything. Everything." The lawyer looked at me, clearly impressed by my resolve. "I'll do everything I can. But you need to be prepared. She won't stop until she's completely destroyed you." I nodded, my mind already racing with plans. This woman wasn't going to win. She had made one mistake after another, and it was time for me to turn the tables. I wouldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I wouldn't let her tear me down any further. It was time for me to play my own hand. That evening, after the meeting, I found myself alone in my new home, sitting in the grand living room of the house I had fought so hard to reclaim. The fire crackled softly in the hearth, its warmth contrasting the chill that had settled deep within me. I could hear the sound of the wind howling outside, as if the world was holding its breath for what was to come. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. My old friend, an investigative journalist who had helped me in the past with a few discrete matters. She was someone who understood the power of information, someone who could uncover secrets others thought were buried forever. "Margaret," her voice crackled through the phone, "what's going on? You sound serious." "I need your help," I said, my voice firm and urgent. "There's something I need to know, something I need to uncover before it's too late." "What's going on?" she asked again, her voice more cautious now. "The mistress is going public with something, a recording, a supposed confession from my husband. She's trying to use it to take everything from me." I paused, letting the weight of the situation sink in. "I need you to find out everything about it, where it came from, who has it, and most importantly, whether or not it's real." There was a long silence on the other end of the line before she spoke again. "You're sure about this?" "I'm sure," I said. "I can't let her destroy me. I won't let her get away with it." "All right," she said, her tone shifting from cautious to determined. "I'll get to work. I'll see what I can find. But you need to be prepared. If this is something she's cooked up, it's going to hit you harder than anything before." "I know," I said, my eyes narrowing as I stared into the fire. "But this time, it's not just about defending myself. This time, I'm going to take back what's mine. Every last bit of it." We ended the call, and I sat there in the dim light of the room, staring at the phone, my mind racing with the possibilities. The mistress thought she had won. She thought she had the upper hand. But I wasn't done yet. The real game had just begun. She had no idea who she was messing with. The following days were filled with tension. Every conversation, every meeting, every phone call seemed to carry the weight of a storm. The mistress's legal team pushed harder, claiming the recording was the key to everything. Meanwhile, I waited for the truth to come to light. I trusted my friend to uncover the lies she was trying to weave, and in the meantime, I made my own preparations. I wasn't going to let her win. This time, I was going to expose everything, every last bit of deception, and I was going to make sure the world saw the real villain. And I wasn't just fighting for the house anymore. I was fighting for my dignity, for my future, and for the life that I had worked so hard to build, one that had been torn apart by lies and betrayal. It was 2 days later when I received the call I had been waiting for, the call from my journalist friend. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Margaret, I've got something," she said, her voice urgent, laced with the kind of excitement that told me she had uncovered something significant. "It's not what you think. The recording, it's fake, completely fabricated." I felt a surge of relief mixed with disbelief. I had been preparing for the worst. I had been bracing myself for the possibility that the mistress's lies were more than just that, lies. But hearing those words, hearing the truth for the first time, was a rush. "Are you sure?" I asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Positive." I traced the origins of the recording. It was doctored, manipulated with audio software. It's a complete fabrication. The sound was pieced together from various clips of your husband's voice, but there's nothing real in it, no confession, no admission of guilt. I closed my eyes, letting the words sink in. For a moment, I almost felt like I could breathe again. This woman, this mistress, had been playing a dangerous game, but she had made one fatal mistake. She underestimated me. She thought she could break me with a lie. But now I had the power. "Where did it come from?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "It was recorded on a device that your husband kept hidden in his office. But the most telling part is how it was used. She's been spreading it under the guise of a confession, but it's nothing more than a manipulation of sound. And the people she's told it to, well, they've been feeding into her narrative, thinking it's some kind of revelation, but they don't know the truth." A cold smile crossed my lips. "And now, they will." I felt the power surge within me. The battle wasn't over yet, but I now had the truth on my side. And that truth? It was a weapon. I hung up the phone, my hands trembling as I processed what I had just learned. The mistress's web of lies was starting to unravel. The public revelation of the recording was only the beginning of her downfall. She thought she could control the narrative, make herself into the victim, but she had failed. She had tried to manipulate me, tried to manipulate the law, and now she had exposed herself for what she truly was, a liar and a fraud. I knew what I had to do. It was time to take matters into my own hands. I wasn't going to wait for the legal system to drag this out. I wasn't going to let her keep the upper hand. I would be the one to expose her, publicly and decisively. I immediately called my lawyer, my voice firm and resolute. I need to make a statement. I'm going public with this. I want the recording to be discredited, and I want the world to know the truth. We're going to expose the mistress for the manipulator she is. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Margaret, are you sure about this? Once you go public with it, there's no turning back. This could get ugly. You'll be the one in the spotlight, and there's no telling what she'll do in retaliation. I don't care, I said, my voice unwavering. I'm done hiding. It's time she pays for everything she's done. I'll handle whatever comes next, but the world needs to know the truth. The lawyer let out a breath. All right, we'll start preparing everything, but be prepared for her to fight back. She won't give up easily. I'm ready, I replied. She's taken enough from me. It's time to end this. I spent the next few hours drafting my statement, every word calculated, every sentence designed to strike at the heart of the mistress's lies. The truth had to be clear. There could be no ambiguity, no room for misinterpretation. I would show the world the real woman behind the lies, the woman who thought she could take everything from me. As soon as the statement was finalized, I sent it to the press. I knew the media would pick it up. Once they did, the mistress's false narrative would collapse under the weight of the truth. But I wasn't done yet. The following day, the media exploded. Headlines flooded every major news outlet. Widow exposes mistress's forged confession in explosive legal battle was the first headline I saw. The words jumped off the screen, my heart pounding as I read the full article. It detailed how the recording had been fabricated, how the mistress had tried to manipulate not just me, but the entire world with her lies. It even named the journalist who had helped uncover the truth, my friend, who had risked everything to make sure justice was served. The mistress's reaction came soon after. She tried to deny it at first, to salvage whatever dignity she had left. But the more she spoke, the more her lies became evident. She couldn't stop the avalanche of truth that was now flooding the media. The public turned on her quickly, and soon people who had once supported her were now questioning her every word. The story was everywhere, on social media, in news articles, on television. I watched, almost in disbelief, as the world saw her for who she truly was. The comments flooded in, most of them condemning her, some even offering support for me. But it didn't matter what they said. What mattered was that she was exposed. She had no more secrets, no more lies to hide behind. And then, just when I thought the storm had passed, I received another text. This time, there was no threat, no anger, just a simple message from the mistress herself. You think you've won, but trust me, this isn't over. I will make you regret this. The final words echoed in my mind as I sat back in my chair, staring at the phone in my hand. It wasn't over, not by a long shot. But one thing was clear. The battle had shifted. She was no longer the one calling the shots. I was. I stared at the text from the mistress, feeling a bitter laugh rise in my throat. I will make you regret this. Her words were dripping with desperation. The truth had crushed her. She was losing everything. The house, her so-called legacy, her fabricated story. And now, she was grasping at whatever remnants of power she could find. But it was too late. The storm had already passed. She had exposed herself for the fraud she truly was. Yet despite the relief, I knew I wasn't out of the woods yet. I had seen her desperation before. She wasn't going to go down quietly. Her pride would never allow it. I spent the next day meeting with my lawyer again, finalizing all the legal paperwork and ensuring the mistress's attempts to challenge the will would be legally blocked. Her claims had no foundation anymore. The public had already seen the truth. But I knew she wasn't done fighting. She wasn't done trying to tear me down. "What do you think she'll do now?" I asked, my voice cold and steady. "I've seen this before," my lawyer replied, his face serious. "When someone like her is backed into a corner, they get dangerous. She might not have much left, but she'll try anything, whether it's slander, more legal challenges, or even personal threats. Be prepared." I nodded, knowing he was right. It wasn't over yet, but at least the worst was behind me. The truth had been revealed, and the world knew exactly who the mistress was now. Nothing more than a manipulator who had tried to destroy my life for her own gain. That evening, as I walked through the house, I couldn't help but think of how much had changed in such a short amount of time. This house, this symbol of my husband's deceit, was now mine. And as I walked from room to room, I didn't feel the weight of betrayal anymore. Instead, I felt like I was starting to take control of my life again. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the victim. I wasn't the woman who had been left in the dust. I was the one in charge. And it felt empowering. But my reflection on the quiet of the house was interrupted by the sound of my phone buzzing on the counter. It was an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Margaret?" The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, but still carried a tone I recognized, one of anger, desperation, and fear? "Yes," I replied, my pulse quickening slightly. "You don't know me," the voice said, "but I have something you need to hear." The line went silent for a moment before the voice spoke again. "It's about her, the mistress. You think she's done, but she's still got something left. A piece of your husband's past you don't know about." I froze. The words sent a jolt through me. "What are you talking about?" My voice was tight with caution. "You need to listen to me. She's got evidence. She has something. Something about your husband. Something he never wanted you to find out." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "What do you mean?" "There's more to the story. More than you know. If you want to stop her from going public, you need to act fast. The evidence she has could ruin you both, if you don't get to it first." I swallowed hard, the adrenaline pumping through me. "What do you want from me?" "I'll meet you," the voice said. "But you need to promise me you'll listen. She's dangerous, Margaret. She's got connections, people who will do anything to make sure she gets what she wants." The line went dead before I could say anything else. I was left staring at my phone, my mind racing. I had no idea who this person was or if I could trust them. But the idea that the mistress still had some card left to play sent a chill down my spine. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. She wasn't going to stop trying to tear me down. The thought of something, anything, still lingering out there, something that could undo everything I had worked so hard to achieve, made my blood run cold. I called my lawyer again, my voice sharp with urgency. "I need to find out what the mistress has. She's got something dangerous. We need to get ahead of this." He paused. "Are you sure this isn't just a scare tactic? She's known to be manipulative." "I don't care," I snapped. "She's not going to take anything else from me. Whatever it is, we need to get to it before she can use it." We set the wheels in motion. My lawyer worked tirelessly, contacting everyone involved in the case, trying to piece together who might have access to whatever evidence the mistress had. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. This battle was mine to win. The meeting was set for the following evening. I arrived at the location, an old, run-down cafe on the outskirts of town, feeling a strange sense of calm. I was prepared. I was going to put an end to this once and for all. No more games, no more lies. The mistress had already tried to destroy me, but I wasn't going to let her. Not this time. As I walked into the cafe, I noticed a man sitting alone in a corner booth. He had the look of someone who had been waiting for a long time. I walked over to him, my heels clicking on the tiled floor. He didn't stand up when I approached. Instead, he looked up at me, his eyes wary but intense. "You came," he said, his voice low, almost guarded. "I wasn't sure you would." "I don't have time for games," I said firmly. "What do you know about the mistress? What is it that she has?" He looked around, checking to make sure no one was watching us before he spoke again. "She's been lying to you, to everyone. Your husband wasn't just some fool she was manipulating. There's something she's hiding, something she doesn't want you to know." "Tell me what it is," I demanded, my heart pounding. He hesitated, then leaned in closer. "Your husband wasn't just having an affair. He was involved in something much bigger, a financial scheme, something that could bring down not just her, but the entire family. If she has the right evidence, she can ruin everything. She could make you look like you were part of it." My stomach churned. "What are you talking about?" The man sat back, a grim expression on his face. "Your husband didn't just leave her a house. He left her a way out. But it's not just for her. She's got a plan, Margaret. She's going to use it to take everything." I sat there, my heart racing as the weight of the man's words sank in. My husband had been involved in something bigger than I had imagined, something that could bring everything crashing down. The mistress didn't just have the house. She had something much more dangerous, something that could destroy everything I had fought to reclaim. I didn't need to ask any more questions. I already knew what I had to do. "I need to know where she's hiding this evidence," I said, my voice a low whisper, though it was sharp with determination. "Tell me where it is. I'll take care of the rest." The man hesitated, glancing around nervously before speaking in a hushed tone. "She's been hiding it at a storage facility on the outskirts of town, a place where your husband used to go when he needed to stash things away. I'm sure that's where it is." My mind was already racing with plans. I had no intention of letting her get the upper hand anymore. No more waiting. No more second guessing. I was going to confront her. And this time, I wasn't just taking back the house or the inheritance. I was taking back everything. My dignity, my peace, my future. "I'm going to take care of it," I said firmly, standing up. "If she wants a war, she'll get one, but she won't win. Not anymore." I left the cafe with a newfound sense of purpose. My mind focused only on the one thing that mattered: finding the evidence. I didn't care what it was or how it could destroy me. I would face it head on. I was done being passive, done being the woman who had allowed everything to happen to her. I drove to the storage facility, my heart pounding in my chest with every mile. I knew this was it, the final showdown. I didn't know what I would find, but I knew I was prepared to face whatever came my way. The facility was in a remote part of town, tucked away behind rows of rusted metal doors and broken security lights. I parked my car and got out, making my way toward the entrance. The place was eerily quiet, the only sound the faint hum of the wind through the trees. I walked up to the door that the man had mentioned, my breath steady despite the growing tension. It was unlocked. I stepped inside, the smell of damp concrete and dust filling the air. Then I saw it, a small storage unit in the back corner, tucked away behind boxes and old furniture. There, sitting on the floor, was a heavy metal safe. I knew instinctively that this was it, the secret she had been hiding. I didn't hesitate. I knelt down, my fingers working quickly as I punched in the code. It clicked open with a loud snap and my heart skipped a beat. Inside the safe were stacks of documents, a few files, and several old VHS tapes. I reached for the closest file, pulling it open with shaking hands. The papers inside were covered in my husband's handwriting. Notes about transactions, financial deals, and names I didn't recognize. It didn't take long to see what this was. Evidence of embezzlement, illegal deals, and connections to people I had no idea existed. It was clear now. This was the legacy the mistress had been trying to claim. Not just the house, but all of the illegal activities my husband had been involved in, and now she had everything to expose it. My stomach turned as I flipped through the papers. I felt the weight of everything I had lost: the trust, the love, the belief that I had been part of something real. It had all been a lie. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. The mistress hadn't won. I was going to make sure she paid for every single one of her lies. The evidence was in my hands now, and I would use it. I grabbed the stack of documents, taking one last look at the safe before closing it. I turned and walked out of the storage unit, my mind already turning with the next steps. The world would know the truth. She wouldn't get away with this. Not now. Not ever. The moment I returned home, I wasted no time. I contacted my lawyer immediately, sending him the documents and the tapes. "This is it," I said, my voice low but resolute. "She's been hiding everything, and now I have everything I need to stop her." Within hours, my lawyer was already working on a plan to take the mistress down for good. We went over the next steps carefully: how to expose her, how to get the legal process rolling, how to make sure that everything she had worked to manipulate would be destroyed. By the time the morning came, everything was set in motion. We filed legal actions against the mistress, demanding not just the return of the property, but also the legal charges that would come with her attempts to manipulate the truth and defraud me. The media didn't waste any time picking up the story. Within hours, headlines flooded every news outlet. "Widow exposes mistress's deceitful financial scheme. New evidence unveiled." The mistress's carefully constructed image of a victim quickly crumbled under the weight of the truth. People who had once sympathized with her now turned on her, realizing how much she had lied, how much she had stolen. Her claims were no longer taken seriously. Her role as the grieving lover was gone. Her manipulation had been exposed. She tried to fight back, of course. She hired a new team of lawyers and made one last desperate attempt to twist the facts. But the public was already on my side. The legal system was already moving in my favor, and this time, there was no room for her lies. Finally, after months of legal battles and public scrutiny, the case was settled in my favor. The house was officially mine, and the mistress was forced to leave, her claims dismissed. She lost everything: her power, her influence, her manipulation. I walked through the doors of the house once more, feeling a sense of closure that had been long overdue. I wasn't just walking into a building. I was walking into the life I had fought to reclaim, the life that was mine. As the days passed, the mist of betrayal, lies, and heartbreak started to lift. I was no longer bound by the past. The future was mine to shape. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I had faced the darkness. I had stood up to the woman who tried to tear me apart, and now I was standing on my own 2 feet, stronger than ever. The battle had been hard, but the victory, oh, the victory, was all mine.